what I learned in that 100-day period completely transformed how I approached even riding my horses in a snaffle bit as well, because of all the reasons I've shared with you. And so earlier I mentioned that you can pick the equipment that is best for your horse, but also picking equipment that allows you to learn more so that you can be better for your horse is just as important. I don't care whether you ride dressage horses, jumpers, eventers, ponies, quarter horses, if you chase cows, ride reiners. I don't care whether you identify as an equestrian or a cowboy or a cowgirl or a trail rider. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing with your horse, we are all horse people. And in the world we live in, we have access to more knowledge, more information than we ever had before. Yet there is still massive room for improvement in our horsemanship. And we see this not just with people that ride horses, but improvement with how veterinarians handle horses and how all of us, anyone that is involved with a horse, and we need to put horsemanship back at the forefront. I believe our priorities have gotten a bit out of whack. And in this particular video, I want to take you through a piece of equipment that has helped me become a far better horseman, and it's helped a lot of my students become a better horseman. And I want to do this for a couple of reasons. And one of the first reasons is I hate gatekeeping. I hate the broken beliefs and mentalities that have plagued this industry for years. And as someone that didn't grow up in the horse industry and came into it late and had to try to drink from a fire hose and get around people, I got around people that did not want to share information, that did not want to. And it's like, what benefit is that for you to take it to your grave? I believe that we're all here to make this world a better place. And part of that world is our industry. And the more that we can share this knowledge, share this information, and get it into the hands of as many people as possible. Now, it's up to you what you do with it, right? I can teach this to you, but whether you actually go take action or not, that's on you, right? But those of us that are good stewards of the information that we receive and the knowledge that we gain, we go use it, right? We go put it to work, and we become better horsemen. And as we become better horsemen, we can help other people, right? And that doesn't mean going and giving unsolicited advice, but it does mean that when the opportunity does arise that we can perhaps help somebody, we do that, all right? And so I started this video by saying, I don't care what discipline you ride, because what I'm getting ready to get into with this particular piece of tack, someone's like, oh, that's for Western horses. Listen, I spent more than a decade riding hunters, jumpers, and dressage horses, almost strictly. And I started and educated a lot of horses, a lot of those warm bloods, even thoroughbreds, even Arabians, in this piece of equipment, okay? And yes, it is more naturally seen in the Western world, but it's not English or Western. This is horsemanship at the end of the day. And this is a piece of equipment that if you want to be a better horseman, it will help you, okay? Because there's the 4-letter F word of horsemanship, feel. Did you feel that, right? How many of us have heard people tell us this? Like, they ask us this question, hey, did you feel that? And it can be one of the most demoralizing questions that an instructor asks you. Doesn't mean it's not a good question, but it's either yes or no. And oftentimes we go, oh, no, I didn't feel that. And we feel bad about it. It's like, no, that's okay, right? Like, as an instructor, I'm like, that's fine, you didn't feel it. Let's set it up again. Let's see if we can set up that opportunity to where you can feel that. But a lot of people get this mistaken, and this is a whole nother video, but I need to preface this before I get into this piece of equipment here, which is, a lot of people go, oh, I want to develop better feel. But how do you develop better feel? You develop better timing and better balance. That's why, like, the Tom Dorrance Ray Hunt mentality is feel, timing, and balance. but the better your timing gets and the better your balance gets, those are things you have control over. You can get better, you can develop better balance, you can develop better timing. When you do those two things, you can develop better feel, right? Because what it takes to develop better balance and better timing will help you develop better feel, okay? And so most of us, English, Western, trail riders, doesn't matter, right? Many of us are used to riding like in a very simple, this is just a 2-piece snaffle bit with copper inlays, right? And there's certain things that we can do with a bit, drop my helmet, with a bit that we cannot necessarily get away with when we ride in, if I can get this down, in what we call a Hackamore. Now, the Hackamore, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but this whole thing is considered the Hackamore. This rawhide noseband here is considered the Bozell, right? I don't call it a Basel, I call it a Bozell, okay? And so this Hackamore, riding in a Hackamore can be one of the most beneficial, probably the best piece of equipment that you could invest in to develop your horsemanship. And the reason is that you can get away with certain things by having a bit in your horse's mouth that you cannot get away with when you're riding in a Bozell, okay? One of those things is letting your horse lean on your hands, okay? When is it helpful to allow our horse to lean on our hands? In the average riding sense, never, right? Okay? It's not helpful. And I'm not going to get into like race horses and all those things. I'm not going to consider race horses as an average type situation, okay? There's a difference between a horse being accepting of the contact, but within the contact, versus a horse that is pulling, rooting. Those types of behaviors of a horse leaning into the hand is never helpful, okay? And so if you allow a horse to lean, now this has, I'll show you this because some of you guys might be looking at this piece of equipment for the very first time. This is a very pliable, flexible, has a lot of give to this. This is a rawhide, braided out of a cow's hide, rawhide, and sometimes they use rawhide or other types of materials, but this is from cattle, and it's a rawhide core, so there's no metal in this at all. It has a lot of give and feel, if we can go back to the word feel, to it. And so you could teach a horse to lean and pull on this kind of easily, right? If you give them something to lean on, right? If you're not diligent about how you're using your hands and what your horse is doing. And so it requires us to be more aware of how we're utilizing our aids. I'm going to hang this back up here just for a second. How we're utilizing our aids and what our horse is doing. And if we allow our horse to lean on this, and I joke with my students at clinics, and even within our Cavi community group, which we'll link down below, is if a horse learns to lean on the Hackamore, what's the next thing you have to teach them? The very next thing. If the horse learns to lean through your hands and is pulling on this, what's the next thing you have to teach them? How not to lean on it. It's not a trick question, right? It's if you start to teach a horse, if you start using this piece of equipment and your horse starts pulling on you, the very next thing you got to learn is how to get that horse backed off your hand. But when we're using, let's just say, a very simple snaffle bit, right? Because we are in the horse's mouth, and I'm not on board with this whole bitless riding stuff, okay? Right? I think it's all for the wrong reasons. We should be selecting our tack to what benefits the horse. Some horses that are more dull, heavier, they're less mentally engaged, oftentimes they can go better in a snaffle bit. And I have a video actually in our Cavi community on Should I put my horse in the Snaffle or should I put my horse in the Hackamore? And I take you through how I make that decision. I'm not going into this particular video. If you're interested in that, you can click the link to the Cavi community. Okay. Some horses benefit more from being in a bit than they would be in a Hackamore. That doesn't mean they can't learn to go in a Hackamore, right? But the problem I have with the bitless riding movement, I'm going to call it, it's not even a movement. It's a result of thinking with feelings. That's really what it is that most of the people that choose to ride bitless are thinking with their feel. They're making decisions off of how they feel, and they feel like, I don't think it feels good for a horse to have a bit in their mouth. That's not true. It's not true, and some horses benefit better because here's the thing, with a bit, you can access that horse's tongue. If a horse is holding tension in their throat, in their hyoid, right, and they're not relaxed through the jaw, if you have a bit in that horse's mouth and you appropriately use your hands, you can help soften that horse's mouth. That's something that is a benefit by having a bit that you could not do with a Hackamore, right? A Hackamore is just around the horse's nose. That horse is holding tension in their tongue. It is more difficult to get that horse to potentially relax that part of their mouth because you don't have direct access to it. You don't have direct access to their tongue to stimulate their tongue, to get them to start licking and chewing so that they can swallow, so they can relax, because through their hyoid, through their neck, through their TMJ, and down through the rest of their body, right? You can't stimulate that with this Hackamore. So and here's the thing, right? When I'm educating and training horses, and it doesn't matter, like whether I started them, some horses I will start in a Hackamore, like in the colt starting process. Some horses I'll start in the Snaffle bit. And then many times, if they're mine, I'll go back and forth between the two because they have their benefits. But this is about you. Like this video is not necessarily about the benefits to the horse. Those are important, and we should be selecting our tack, perhaps first and foremost, for what will benefit the horse. Most people that are in this bitless riding feelings decision are doing based on what makes them feel good, not what actually benefits their horse. And that's the problem I have with that. But when we're talking about developing you becoming a better horseman, right? Utilizing a Hackamore, for example, you cannot get away with the things that you get away with in a Snaffle bit. Like, you cannot allow a horse to lean on your hands in a Hackamore, because if you do, then they're going to start to pull on you, and they have more leverage that way. The other really big thing when it comes to the Hackamore as well is, yes, it operates off of a lot of signal because of how the reins go, but because of how the reins take the slack out of it. And so when that happens, these horses become more, you start to require the horse to become more responsive off of the signal versus the direct pull, right? Which is what we need to be doing in the Snaffle bit. If we ride our horses in the Snaffle bit like we ride in a Hackamore, our horses are way softer, way more responsive, and there's way less physicalness that happens with the Snaffle. But many people with the Snaffle will kind of make this assumption that we have to get to the physical contact versus understanding that whether it's the Hackamore or the Snaffle, that is there for a point of reference for their balance. They should stay within it. But yet many people think that there's a certain amount of weight that has to be in our hand within the Snaffle, which is not true. It's not true at all. I'm not saying that having some weight is bad depending on what you're doing with your horse, but ultimately, if we're working towards self-carriage, right, as a horseman, we can learn how to get there a bit quicker and a bit sooner, because that horse has to be responsive off of the signal, off of us taking the slack out of the reins. And that means that the horse has to have that much focus. They have to have that much awareness and that much willingness to respond to less, because guess what? We cannot allow that horse to go to the amount of physical pounds in our hand that we would potentially let a horse do in a Snaffle bit, right? This requires for us to be more aware and more disciplined with how we use our aids And it requires our horses, for us to hold our horses responsible to be more disciplined. And guess what? This is not an advanced piece of equipment, right? I said I use this in starting colts because it's great because it has a lot of lateral. I might use a halter for the first 1 to 3 rides, okay? But then after that, if I move them up into the Hackamore, this still gives me the lateral ability. It's still very similar to a halter, but it's like a custom fitted boot. And so because it's like a custom fitted boot, it is going to fit their face better. And because it fits their face better, the communication is more clear, right? It's like having a hat that fits your head or a boot that fits your foot. It's going to allow for me to be more effective in my communication versus a halter is going to be all wiggly and wobbly. Those bitless bridle setups that are oftentimes just, they're cheap pieces of junk. There's not enough specificity in how it fits the horse's face. So the communication gets muddled, right? And a lot of times they attach from the sides, right? I'm not here attacking like the bitless bridle stuff. Obviously, I'm not a fan of it, but they're just like lateral attachments versus attachments where the reins attach to what we call the heel knot down here, which allows us to still get lateral, but also to develop vertical. And we can advance this horse to being able to ride one-handed, right? All the way within one piece of equipment. And so as a horseman, we're talking about developing our timing, our balance, right? Our timing has to be better in getting in time with our horse's feet, in time with our horse's stride, in time with our horse's thought processes with this, while also making sure that we're aware of how we're balanced, how the horse is balanced, all of those things. We can utilize this, but we eliminate the tolerance for excessive physical pressure. Okay, and I think that is one of the most beneficial things in using this, is that many times when we're riding in a bit, for example, in just a simple snaffle, we tolerate too much physical pressure. And when we ride in a Hackamore, we cannot tolerate that same level of physical pressure, because otherwise that horse will push through it and frolic off and take off, and now we've created a runoff. So we have to learn how to be more effective with our equipment and with our requests. And we also have to learn how to have better timing. And if we notice that the horse is starting to get a little heavy, to get a little bracy, right? We can't go to more physical to fix that. We have to redirect it. Maybe we, in some capacity, right? We might have to go, oh, well, what is stiff? What is getting rigid? What is causing this horse to lean through my hands? And what can I do to get this horse off effectively? Because I can't just keep pulling, right? Because they can pull right through that. Like, it's not possible. I'm not going to be able to do it. So how can I be more effective to get this taken care of sooner, which allows the horse to find the softness sooner, which allows the horse to learn what you're looking for sooner, which allows the horse to learn how to be more responsive sooner, which allows us to do less, which allows the horse to do more, and which allows both of us to experience less physical pressure together, because we're being more proactive and we're not tolerating things that are not beneficial to our horse. And that's all a really good thing. And when you learn how to do this effectively in the Hackamore, and you go back to riding in a snaffle bit, and you don't tolerate that extra physical pressure that is extra, it is excessive, it is not necessary, and you become more proactive in how you use this. I'm going to do another video on bumping versus pulling, right? But in a Hackamore, you will learn that pulling is not that effective, and it's pretty much advised against. Well, I'm going to give you on a little hint. We'll do another video on this specifically on bumping versus pulling, but if you take that same approach to a snaffle bit, guess what? It's much more effective in the snaffle bit as well, right? Because pulling, you can't pull softness into a horse, right? And pulling will create a stiff horse. Pulling will create a horse that leans and pulls, right? And that, you will learn that very heavily, but yet many people continue to pull in the snaffle bit when it's not effective. It's just that you can tolerate it more because the equipment is in a certain location that allows you to get away with it. But just because you can get away with it doesn't mean you should be doing it, right? And so if you truly want to become a better horseman, I don't care what type of horse you ride, what discipline you ride. We're simply talking about you developing better timing, better awareness, better focus, better balance, ultimately better, the elusiveness of better feel, to where when people watch you ride, they're like, man, she's a really good horsewoman, or man, he's a really good horseman, right? And they oftentimes notice that because it's hard to see what you're doing, right? They can see how you're using your aids. They can see the horse. They look at this and they go, this is visually appealing. Like the horse and the rider are together, right? And even novice riders can notice someone that is really good as a horseman, right? And that comes from how, not just what we do, but how we do it. And that's what the Hackamore can challenge, is that what you need to do with a Hackamore in terms of just training a horse, educating a horse, riding a horse is the same. You need to turn left, turn right, stop, back up, everything in between, teach different maneuvers, do different things. But how you do it, you have to, you will learn. If you've never ridden in one of these before, or if you've just started it, you will learn that you have to do things a little differently. And I can tell you from years of experience, though, that if you take the things that you learn, you're like, oh, in a Hackamore, I have to do it this way. If you start doing that in the Snaffle as well, your horses will get better. They will get softer. They will be more responsive. They will respond off of more signal versus direct pressure. All of these things are beneficial. And so I have found, and I did this early in my career, of going out and buying my first Hackamore, and did that. And I trained. I didn't have client horses. All my client horses at that point were warm bloods, and I was riding them all on a Snaffle bit. But then I had a horse that I got for a competition, and I was like, I'm going to train this horse in the Hackamore because I want to get better. This is for me. A third of the reason that I did that competition was so that I could get better with that horse, and so that I could develop my horsemanship. And what I learned in that 100-day period completely transformed how I approached even riding my horses in a Snaffle bit as well, because of all the reasons I've shared with you. And so earlier I mentioned that you can pick the equipment that is best for your horse, but also picking equipment that allows you to learn more so that you can be better for your horse is just as important, right? Your horse can, you can put a Hackamore there and you go, listen, horse, I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm going to make some mistakes. And the horses are so forgiving. They're so forgiving. When you show a horse a better way, many, many, many of them will take you up on the better way. In the better way of letting them have more peace, more presence, less resistance. Like, they want those things in their life, right? And so it's okay. You're going to mess it up. Don't be afraid to mess up, because the sooner, like I said, if you teach a horse to lean into the Hackamore, the next thing you're going to teach them is how not to lean into the Hackamore. And you're going to learn, and you won't make the mistake again, right? And your horse will still be better off because of it, because now you've learned how to be better. And so don't let the fear of messing this up hold you back from getting started. The reason that I can confidently go put a Hackamore horse and ride around and people are like, hey, that looks good, right? And like, is because I've made a lot of mistakes, right? You have to be, if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to look pretty stupid in the process, right? And we work with amazing animals that will sometimes help us find the answer, but other times, even if we mess it up, they're going to forgive us. They're going to, when it's that feel thing, when you start to get it right, that horse is going to go, bam, there it is. And you're like, that was it. I don't know how I did it, but that was it. If you're at this point, you're like, I really want to ride my horse in a Hackamore, like, get the Hackamore. Don't overcomplicate it, right? We have the Cavi community. I mentioned that earlier, right? I'm not trying to sell that to you, but it is like, we have a Hackamore horse series in there, right? It's in-depth, step-by-step, all this information. I continually add to it. I would highly encourage, if you're serious about your horsemanship, if you want support, you can ask questions. I will respond to them, right? And you want support and you want to go down this journey and you want to become a better horseman like that, the Cavi community is for those that actually want to get better, okay? It's not just this, like, there's other places you can go if you just want to kind of dink around. I'm here to help you become the best horseman that you possibly can be, because I want you to be the best you can be so that you can serve your horse the best that you possibly can, so that this industry, and so that we all can create this ripple effect, and you can work with horses in better ways, and every horse you work with has a better experience, and people that you talk with at your boarding facility, or if you're a trainer, and the better you help your students. Like, I'm here to help you try to pass along as much knowledge and information as I possibly can, so that you can continue to do the same with the people and the horses that you touch. And so if that is you, then I want to invite you to join me over there. But don't, at the very core of this with the Hackamore is, you're going to make mistakes. So don't be afraid of it. You're going to make mistakes. Go make the mistakes. Make those mistakes as fast as possible. Because the faster you make mistakes, the faster you can learn, and the faster you can get onto the track that you need to get onto of doing things better. It can transform the way you work with your horses in any piece of equipment, right? It's simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but what is easy? Really? What is easy? Staying comfortable, avoiding growth, avoiding conflict. Like, that doesn't move things forward. That doesn't make anything better. Just to stay comfortable, to avoid growth, to avoid conflict. That just creates more problems. It prolongs problems, right? But if you want to get better so that you're better for your horse, so you're better for the future horses, this is one of the best pieces of equipment I can possibly recommend to you to invest in your education, so that then, even if you're an English rider and you're gonna go show in a snaffle bit, this can help you and your horse be better in the snaffle bit, to be better in whatever you ride in, because it's getting to the root of what it takes of becoming a better horseman. It takes us getting better. The better that we can become, the more that we can become a leader worth following for our horses, the better we can serve them, the more willing they're going to be to follow us, right? And the better of a partnership that we can create with them. And so if you guys have questions on this, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm going to do another video. We'll probably link it over here when it's up, as to pulling versus bumping. That's going to be a really critical one as well. And if you guys are curious about the Cavvy community, go check it out. Jump in there. Join us. It has an app that you can access right from your phone. It has a community thread. You can ask all your questions. It's for like-minded people that are serious about their horsemanship. Okay, I'd certainly love to have you in there. I appreciate your time watching this video. I hope that it helps you. And if you got any questions, just let me know down in the comments, and we'll see you guys soon.